If you have shoulder impingement, then in this video, you're going to learn exactly what it is and proven strategies and exercises to treat it for good. So shoulder impingement is a very common problem that people run into, especially people who lift weights when they're doing exercises overhead. So particularly overhead presses, barbell presses, or dumbbell presses, those are the most problematic. Shoulder impingement is when movement of the shoulder, particularly shoulder flexion, so this is shoulder flexion, results in pain, and that movement repeated time over time can cause inflammation in either the rotator cuff tendons, the biceps tendon, or the bursa can get inflamed as well. So how do we go about treating this and dealing with it? There's a couple things. First, you want to deal with the acute pain, but then you have to deal with the root cause. If you don't address the root cause, and there's two very common root causes that I find that you must address regardless. You got to take care of it. Even if you don't have impingement, it's important to know these things. If you don't address these things and you just do like rotator cuff exercises and chest stretches and that kind of stuff, you're not going to get long-term relief. Especially if you keep doing the things that result in the pain, like overhead presses or overhead squats, or it could be pull-ups. Any of those movements can cause shoulder impingement and resulting pain and inflammation. So the two root causes. One is improper movement pattern, like not consciously doing the wrong movement pattern. And number two is thoracic spine. So those are two things that need to be addressed, but we'll get to those in a second. The first thing, if you do have shoulder impingement and you have pain, is to decrease the pain. Because if that pain is there, you're not going to be able to move properly. That pain is going to be impacting muscles and shutting certain muscles off, and other muscles are going to work more and compensate. So we've got to get rid of the pain and the inflammation. So what you can do, ice for the first 24 to 72 hours, ice. Don't do any other movements, but ice it down. And you could also do contrast, ice, heat. I find that really beneficial for myself. I do that in the shower, 30 seconds as cold as possible, 30 seconds as hot as possible, and do that 3 to 5 times. And I find that really, really helpful for decreasing pain. Anti-inflammatories, you can do some supplements, but they tend not to be very good at acute pain. So things like turmeric or curcumin, fish oil, those are great for long-term inflammation, and especially if you have some kind of degenerative conditions like arthritis or something like that. Those are great for those conditions, but if you've got shoulder impingement that's kind of acute, those anti-inflammatory supplements don't help as much. So you could go into the pain medication, just like Advil, if you're going to go that route, really short term, and you don't want to be doing the next phase, which is the corrective exercise strategies when you're on Advil, because you're going to not get those pain signals from your body, and you might do things that are hurting you, and your body's saying, stop, don't do these anymore, but you keep doing them because you're on painkillers. So once you get into the corrective exercise mode phase, then get off the painkillers, okay? So other strategies are massage. So you can go to a massage therapist, and that would be great, but you can also do self-massage. And for this, you just want to massage all around the shoulder. When your arm is in this position in neutral, or up to about 90 degrees of flexion, you're not going to be causing further damage on those structures that are inflamed and painful right now. So know that even if it hurts, it's not causing more damage. So what our goal is with the massage is just to relax those muscles so they calm down. They're not so tense, which is going to further exacerbate the pain. So what you want to do is you go all around. Just a general massage, really passive. Do the pecs. Very important to get into the pec minor there. Roll around. Do the deltoids, more on the side. Roll up and down. And I like going on the wall because you can really control how hard you massage. And then posterior delts, scapular muscles, and then into lats, teres major, more in the armpit down here. So you spend 2-3 minutes massaging yourself there, that's just gonna shut the muscles off so they can relax, blood flow can go in, start to recover, and they're just not contracting so much. So if they're always contracted, that's gonna result in pain, like either from delayed onset muscle soreness, basically they're overworking, or just that compression on the joint. That's gonna exacerbate things. Okay, so relax those tissues. Next up, we've got a reset. Now this is improper movement pattern and improper cueing, and it's a cue that I've heard too many times to count on YouTube and from trainers, is to keep those shoulder blades, the scapula, down and back when you're doing exercises like overhead press or pull-ups. You keep the scapula pinched the whole time. Let me show you why you don't want to do that. I'm going to keep my scapula pinched, and I'm going to go into as much shoulder flexion as possible. Scapular pinched, and now what I'm feeling is something going on in the front of the shoulder. It's not muscle, it's impingement. Because the acromion and the humerus are basically clunking together. The reason why is when you keep your scapula down and back, you don't have that natural scapulohumeral rhythm where the scapula forms the socket for your shoulder joint, and if it's just stuck when you go up, the bone of the humerus impinges any tissues in between that and the acromion, which is part of the scapula that comes out in the front, little hook. But when you allow your shoulders, or you get your shoulders to move properly, so the scapula rotates up and elevates, upward rotation, then you look at this movement. First of all, look at the range I'm able to achieve here easily. Okay? And I don't feel that impinging feeling, pinching feeling. I feel muscle is working, but that's it. Okay, so keeping the shoulders down and back when you're doing overhead movements, if you're doing that the whole time, that's wrong. Stop doing that. The exercise that I'm going to teach you is the dissociation exercise. So to reprogram, reset the neuromuscular system in this pattern. So what you're going to do is just go into the overhead position, and this is again when you're not in such an acute pain stage, and you're just going to do a shrug, get the shoulders up to the ears, and then you're going to come down from there. And we're just resetting this movement pattern to the proper one. So you just lift up as you naturally would, shrug as high as you can, and then come down. From the side, it looks like reaching up naturally, and you might find yourself just pinching if you've been doing a lot of reps, but just reach up naturally as high as you can, shrug, reach to the sky, and then come down from there and sweep down, and then you can pinch down and back at the bottom if you want. That's going to reset the movement pattern to break that bad habit of keeping the shoulder blades down and back when your arms are up overhead. Okay? Next up is restore. So a bunch of techniques here. First up, basic T-spine mobilization. You can use a foam roller. I like something with a hard edge because you can get a better, more targeted mobilization here. And really basic, keeping the arms in front, scapula protracted. That helps to isolate the T-spine. Going over top. Do that a few times on each segment, from the bottom of the neck to the start of the low back. Curl yourself up. I'm sure you've seen this one, common. Okay, after that, that's a great starter to mobilize the thoracic spine, and that's the other root cause of shoulder impingement, is if you've got really poor posture, the scapula aren't able to upwardly rotate much, and it's as if like my body's angled that way. This is my full range, and I'm trying to reach something up here. Because I only have that, you're just at the top and you're going to impinge when you're at the top there. So getting the thoracic spine to get into extension and restore that extension is critical to addressing it long term. Okay, so first T-spine mobilizations, then check out this video. I'm not going to rehash it here. This is kind of like a high-level overview, but T-spine ERE, end range expansion sequence. This video is right here. go watch that one. It's a one technique. It's a long kind of video, but you'll see why. I'll break it all down, why this exercise is so important, and the little nuances to doing it correctly that's going to get you to fix excessive thoracic kyphosis and fix it for good. Because this stuff, the roller extensions over the foam roller or the block, that's a passive mobilization. It's not going to give you long-term lasting results. Okay, so head on over, check that video now or afterwards. The other technique we got here on YouTube is the overhead doorway end range expansion sequence, and you can see that over here. This one is going to get you to start working in that range and stabilizing that range. So you're building strength at your end range, and by doing so, you're going to continually expand it as you build more and more strength. So check that video out afterwards. Okay, finally, you've done the restoration of proper movement, activation of muscles, and restoration of mobility. It's time to reprogram, and that's the final stage. So I call this stage reprogram, and it's functional integration. So functional integration brings techniques into either closed chain patterns, compound movement patterns where there's more joints moving at once, or flows and transitions. And I'm just going to share a couple with you. One is the overhead wall rollout, which is over here. It's already on YouTube, so you can check that out. Great technique for training both scapulohumeral rhythm and integrated core stability. Okay, so when you're up overhead, you need a stable core so that you're not hinging your spine and putting a lot of compressive stress on the lumbar spine. Okay, that's another symptom of poor shoulder mobility is low back pain. And you can learn about that in that video. And the other technique is just a simple Arnold press. So a dumbbell, you've got dumbbells, and instead of doing a dumbbell press overhead like that, you just start with your palms facing you, externally rotate, press, and then return to the start under control. Nice and slow, like that, okay? And with that, you could just build up strength, and that's gonna build up proper scapulohumeral rhythm and build up strength so that that movement and that joint is resilient in those movements. Okay, so hope you enjoyed this high-level overview, kind of talked about the root causes and went through the process of getting out of acute pain down through integrating into movements that will transfer to the gym, sport, and everyday life so you can prevent shoulder issues from happening in the future. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. And if you'd like to get all of this kind of wrapped up in one tidy package, then I highly suggest you check out the shoulder control course that I've designed that has all of the concepts that you've learned here and more, and every exercise laid out, reps, sets, progression over time. And this is what you can use to get back to and keep doing the things that you love. Okay, so check that out. I'll link it at the end. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Peace.